the Viper Room and Whiskey Go Go. What's the vibe in there? Is it still like kind of like ripped up, kind of dirty inside?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the appeal. That's the appeal. You walk on the floor and your feet are like sticking. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
yeah, it's disgusting. But
Yeah.
if it's not a little bit disgusting in the club, then it's not a good club as far as I'm concerned. It's not a good music venue, at least.
Yeah.
It might be a good dance club. You know what I mean? If you want to listen to dance music, then so be it. But if you want to hear good music, it's got to be a little bit beat up. It's got to be lived in.
Yeah, nobody's passing you the towel or giving you the mint in the bathroom at those clubs.
Absolutely not. Yo, you're watching Musicians Reveal with Joe Kelley. I am Shaun Bivens, a.k.a. Snickerbar Brown of the Blackstone Funk Revival.
Welcome to Musicians Reveal. We are in store for a great conversation today. A premier funk and roller from the Bay Area, Mr. Shaun Bivens, the leader of the Blackstone Funk Revival, has just put out a smoking EP. That's right. He's excited. A nice EP, Blue Tears, and he primarily worked on it all himself, plays all these different instruments. And we've got finally Mr. Shaun Bivens on the show. How you doing?
Great, man. How about yourself? I'm extremely blessed, bro. Good to see you.
Yeah, and it's great to have some music that we grew up loving and the feel to it. I mean, you got your original spin to it, but you got motifs of other different flavors in music. This particular record, you kind of went into the studio by yourself and laid down almost everything, right?
Yeah. With the guys, it's like everybody is kind of spread out far,
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I'll just get an ideas and I just go in there and just knock it all out. And then, I give it to them and say, hey, what do you guys think? If they say, hey, this song is trash, then, it don't make the cut. You know what I mean? But, this one, I think I kind of nailed what I wanted to do with it,
What do you usually write on to start? Or it depends?
It depends, like the ballad we just did. I did that on bass first. I had my kids we were hanging out with my kids, and I was just sitting around noodling on my cheap bass. I got this old Squire bass. It's like $100 bass,
right.
And I just dicking around on that thing, and then I was like, man, it's a cool little bass line, and I kind of built everything else around that. And then the chorus, the hook came after the bass and the drums, and then all the piano line and all the other synth parts and guitar parts came after that.
And speaking of guitar parts, we mentioned off air about the doubling up on the guitars. I mean, on the record, is there a difference with the different guitars? I'm not a musician, so you tell me when you guys are playing it together.
When we're playing it together, yeah, you're going to hear on the record, you're not going to hear that much of a difference, okay, because it's just me and I'm using the same amps and stuff like that. But what's cool about it, live, my other guitar player, Derek, he plays a Strat, and those Strat pickups, are a Stratocaster is very a distinct sound, and I play a guitar with, a couple of humbuckers, and it's a Fender too, but it's a supersonic. So it's got more of a warmer, it doesn't cut the same way. So when you hear them together and you're playing like a harmony part, like we do, and you're harmonizing on a guitar part, it really has this nice big open, sound to it.
Yeah, it's great. I'm sure you guys, every night is different when you play on stage with that song.
Yeah. We don't like once we get past the second chorus, we do whatever we want to do.
That's right. And you give the signal somebody else can take over after.
That's right.
Yeah. I take it Derek's a big Prince fan too. Does he still have that Rude Boy sticker on his guitar?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Everybody is like Prince fans and lovers of God. The whole band is like, we're all like men of faith. We're all Christians, and we're all like Prince heads. So that, like, go figure. How did that happen? That's just God working right there.
Hey, how did you decide to tackle Breakdown by Prince, the Breakdown, which is one of the later albums that he had? I mean, the falsetto really in fine form for you there.
I'm going to say something that's going to, probably get under some Prince people's head. But I was out of the after the first 4 Prince records, I was finding more and more, and I was like, okay, I like these 3 songs on this album and these 4 songs on that album, this one song on that. So when that record came along, there's some cool stuff on there, but the one that stood out, I was like, this reminds me of the early Prince stuff. This reminds me of, Do Me Baby, that whole Prince slow jam, Scandalous. It had something about it that reminded me of when I first fell in love with Prince's music. So when we cover Prince stuff, sometimes we play with bands that are tribute bands. So we don't want to do the same stuff that everybody else is doing. We're not going to touch Purple Rain. We're not going to touch any of that stuff like that. So we kind of dig in the crates a little bit, and that's one of the songs that stood out. I was like, man, we should do this song. And everybody was like, heck yeah, we love that song.
Did you see him do in Montreux the version?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. Yeah, the festival, right?
Yeah. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Like 3 nights. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were saying like, the fans. Well, of course, Prince fans, very intense. But they were saying, was he crying? Was he wiping sweat? All this,
right. Probably a little both.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then the lyrics are pretty deep in that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was. You were mentioning with being on the same bill with some Prince tribute bands. I think I read a comment. They must have been a big supporter of the Prince tribute bands and saying, I don't know if you saw it. They said, "How could you play Prince songs with your band when we're the band or they're the band?" Did you ever see this song like that?
No. I only get into the comments that much. I'll get people that'll shoot me a text or whatever, and then maybe some of my bandmates or something will read something, if it's really cool or whatever like that. But like, everybody got their opinion when it comes to even Prince had wasn't a big fan of people covering his music, whether that be live or on record. So you're gonna hear a lot of different
Yeah, they were really negative against you guys playing. It was just like they were defending the other band for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So Blue Tears, the EP contains 6 songs, right?
6 songs, yeah.
Yeah, and where's the best spot that people can purchase it?
Amazon Music and Apple Music, but it's on Tidal. It's on any of the other stuff. So if you got all that, it's all the major platforms it's on.
Okay,
cool. But those are the 2 I use. Those are the 2 that I usually send people to.
Right, and that's Shaun Bivens' band, the Blackstone Funk Revival, which the previous album, Funk Shui, man, you got some good titles. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
50 Shades of Funk. You got another great video on there for
yeah. That was a fun video to shoot right there.
Let's talk about affiliation with the Prince and the Revolution, and Dr. Matt Fink contributes.
Yes.
It's Live in Love.
Life and Love, the remix version. Yeah.
Okay. How'd you get affiliated with Doc?
Well, my drummer was doing a show with Matt Fink, and I forget who. I think it was most of the Revolution. And my old friend and bass player John Payne was jamming with the Revolution there for a while. So he called my drummer and had him come in, and I guess him and Matt Fink became like good buddies, and they talk and they text or whatever ever since then. And that must have been probably I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, but they've kept in touch. But when we got the Blackstone Funk Revival off the ground, we had this song, the Life and Love song, and it had a guitar solo in it. And I was like, guitar solo is cool. We got a lot of guitar. But what would be really cool if we had, Dr. Fink on here. And I was just kind of mentioned it in passing to my Tony Providence, my drummer. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to send it to him. I'm like, oh, that's right. Dude. So he sent them the song, and literally like 2 days later, we had this, insane shredding going on. I mean, it was a long piece of music, but he was like, chop it up, and make it fit. And man, it came out perfect.
Yeah, really nice guy. He's got Starview Studios in his home, like still creating over there. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it sounded great, man. We were very stoked. You know, like my 16-year-old self was just like jumping around like a kid, listening to it. You know, in the studio mixing it. You know,
Yeah. Talk about, those young years. When did you first start falling in love with the Minneapolis sound? Do you remember?
I'm going to say about 12, 11 or 12.
Okay.
My cousin Vicky Hurd, when I was living in East Oakland on 42nd Street, and I think she had the For You album, and then the Prince album. But when for me, I liked Soft and Wet, and I like songs like some child Bambi, because I started playing metal and punk first. So when I
Right.
heard Bambi, I was like, oh, this dude's the truth, right? But
Right.
when Dirty Mind came out, it was over for me, because I'm a big fan of everything that sound really encompassed. Controversy and Dirty Mind. I go back and forth between those records, which is my favorite. So
Mhm.
you had the synth pop thing going on there. You had elements of that in there. You had very heavy funk presence, and a rock presence, and then you had this beautiful falsetto and screaming going on with the rock. So all of it was like, for those records, I mean, like, that's when as a musician, I was just like, man, this is insane. He's got it all covered.
Yeah, I think my first single from Prince was Uptown I bought. So
I
and
love
then
that song.
I got controversy for Christmas gift from my mom, and I started playing it with the door closed, and the Lord's Prayer came in, and she was like a really devout Catholic. I get the
Right.
knock on the door. She's like, "What's
Uh-huh.
going on in here?"
It's just like, are you finally converting, Frank? Thank the Lord.
I didn't show her the crucifix in the shower scene on the pull-up
Right. You're
poster.
like, no, 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 no. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, those were great times discovering music, and you had to get the next record. Always excited what he was
Yeah.
putting out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and he was always pushing the envelope, and I think he was all about challenging himself. Not to say, even though that a lot of us want him to stay in the same lane, because we love a particular era or a particular sound that he was making, but for him, he was always pushing the envelope with himself. You got to
Yeah.
respect him.
Yeah, and there's probably more than half of the music still in the vault getting digitized and fixed up and
Man,
some
man,
jams. Yeah.
can't wait, can't wait.
Yeah. He's got a couple of my radio shows in there because he requested them, so I sent them up there. So I don't
Oh,
think it's on
nice.
the high priority list from the fans to release, but they were in the vault. Yeah.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. So you come from the Bay Area. Were you
Mhm.
born there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was born in Castro Valley, California. I spent a week there, and then went right to East Oakland. My parents had a little house on Seminary in East Oakland, and that was our first house. And then we bounced around. Then we went to Hayward, California, and then San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Castro Valley. So we bounced around, but then out to Tracy, California, Central Valley, and then back to Hayward. And you know, I'm on the peninsula now, which is like 20 minutes outside of San Francisco, 25 minutes outside of San Francisco,
Mhm.
and right in the middle between San Francisco and San Jose. So I'm like right in the middle of it.
Well, how's the BART system?
Bart's good.
Oh,
Bart's
okay.
good. Yeah, we live in
Yeah.
a good spot. Me and the wife, because we're like, the airport is 5 minutes away.
Okay.
South Bay is 30 minutes away. San Francisco's 30 minutes away. East Bay's 15 minutes away. So we're like, and then the coast is another 30 minutes if you want to go out to the beach. So we're like right in the middle.
Yeah, that's ideal location. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Just, so much musical tradition and recently so much key losses, Dwayne Wiggins and Sly Stone. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
some of those
Dwayne's a
players,
buddy of
man,
mine. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm sure they influenced, your musical style, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and when I was in the mid '90s, playing, I was playing guitar for Larry Graham, and our band would open up for Larry, and then our band would become his band. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
this is when Larry was playing with Prince, so we got to hang out and catch some of that firsthand and see some. But Dwayne was always around. This is and he had his own band. So me and Dwayne, I got good pictures of us jamming and having a good time together. And we always cross paths over the years. And he was probably about 7 months ago now. The artist, her father throws a party, and he threw a party and had all these Bay Area guys, some guys from Sly and Family Stone, myself, Dwayne Wiggins, and a bunch of us, you know, in the backyard, just with like kids, you know, a bunch of amplifiers, drum set. And we just all got to jam, you know. And I didn't know he didn't tell anybody that he was even sick, you know. So I hadn't seen him probably, you know, in, you know, maybe like 3-4 years before that, but you know, we got to jam that one last time, man, and it was really cool to see him, you know.
Yeah, and thankfully they reunited for a full out tour, the two brothers and
Yeah,
cousin.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
I,
Bay
I
Area is
saw
really small, man, really small, but
yeah,
a lot of talent comes out of there, you know, and
yeah.
it's mainly because of the church, you know. So you
Okay.
know, you got, you know, you know, Prince's old drummer, you know, John Blackwell, you know,
Yeah,
Rosie,
yeah.
you know, you got cats like Thomas Pridgeon. You got all these different, you know, superstar musicians that come out. Prince was always digging into that well of Bay Area musicians, you know.
Yeah, Rosie Gaines, you know, she's been laying low for various reasons, but we wish her well, and you know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing talent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go see the Minneapolis acts and Prince live in concert a lot?
Yeah. Over the years, I probably started going when I was, I don't know, I want to say freshman in high school. You know,
Mhm.
caught the Purple Rain tour, then, you know, Love Sexy, which is one of my favorite records. Caught the
Mhm.
Love Sexy, you know, and I, you know, Sign of the Times. So I've seen him probably, you know, 5 or 6 times over the year, but we did catch him on the piano tour, the last tour, probably, you know, maybe a month or so before his passing. So we
Oh
got to
yeah.
see him
Oh,
at the Oakland Coliseum, you know,
right.
I'm like, you know, I want to see him with the whole band, 2 keyboard players, a couple guitar players. I want to see the whole thing. But my wife talked me into it. She's like, no, let's just go check it out. You know, it might be cool, you know. Yeah, I think he had the Hit and Run album out at the time.
Mhm.
And man, and it was amazing, you know, just one dude, you know, and he came out riding on the side of the stage. He was riding a bike,
Yeah.
like a little mountain bike or something, and he
Right.
had on these tennis shoes that were lighting up in the back. You know, those little light up
Yeah.
shoes that the kids
Yeah.
wear. And
Yeah.
he was we could see him bopping around on the side of the stage, and then he walks on. He's got the little light up shoes on. We were cracking up.
So in a basketball arena, how is that watching someone just piano and a mic, you know, himself? There's a big
Yeah,
difference
that's
from
the
his
second. It was
yeah,
amazing. That was the second time I saw him there. The first time was the love sexy thing. You know,
right.
when Charlie Murphy did his skit about Prince being a baller, I
Mhm.
instantly knew it was true. A
Mm.
couple of reasons. I know a couple of people that was around him at that time. You know, a friend of mine, Trent Gums, is good friends with Eddie Murphy, probably Eddie Murphy's best friend. So he was saying, "No, yeah, it's true." But during that Love Sexy tour, we watched Prince at the Oakland Coliseum shoot about, I don't know, 3 or 4 3-pointers in a row on stage and not miss one. And you know, to the point where me and my cousin were like, "Is the ball on a string? Is that real?" And then finally, you know, he bricked one and kicked it back out to him. But I'm like, this dude's jumper is insane, and he was
Right.
doing it in hits.
Yeah, and he was spinning the ball on his finger and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that. You know, I was probably like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I was 18 or 19, but I remember that vividly.
right. So the Bay Area, is it still called is it the Bay Area MPG fan club? Something of the
Yeah,
sort?
yeah, yeah. The SF, yeah, it is. They go by a couple of different names now. Uh, uh, I always get the names mixed up because it's like 2 different camps now. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, we know Gigi and there's Bobby
yeah.
out there too.
But yeah, Bobby's out here. Yeah, he's in
Right.
San Francisco. Yeah,
Right.
and then
Yeah. And they were there supporting you.
Bobby's in the 50 Shades of Funk video.
Oh, he is? Okay, I have to look for that. Yeah.
So yeah, he's the guy dancing with the boa on, you know, because
Okay.
that's Bobby, always been Bobby's thing. You know, he's been the dancing man. So I was like, we got to get Bobby in the video. You know, Gigi's in the video too.
Yeah, 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 that's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know from the Prince org days and all the fan groups. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were there supporting you and Blackstone Funk Revival at the Retro Junkie
Absolutely,
Club. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it was Gigi's birthday, man. So she came out and she showed out. You know what I mean?
And you had the fans with the purple jumping up and down during the concert. Purple Rain
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah, yeah. Some kids, some couple of kids in there going crazy, man. They're like, these kids are making me tired just watching them.
Yeah, no, I know. Is that distracting when they're that close, or you just roll with it, right?
I think it's fun, man. I like
Yeah,
to interact with people, and I think it's so cool when people are like, really involved in the music that much, where they just having such a good time they can't sit still. So I'm like,
yeah,
go crazy. You know what I mean? Have a good time.
yeah. They were definitely feeling it, so that's great.
Yeah.
Have you had a CD release party yet, or are you thinking about a place coming up?
Yeah, we're gonna do something. We're waiting on we're waiting on the vinyl to get back. So we're
Oh,
gonna
okay.
we're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep it real 80s, and we're gonna get vinyl and stuff like that. So I know we got a couple of things booked, but I don't think we'll have the vinyl in time. We got
Mhm.
like July 2nd in Vallejo, and then we have I think the September show we got coming up is gonna be in a bigger spot. So I think we'll do the release party in then. What we should have the vinyl by then.
And besides your own original stuff, you got some really cool. I love you work chocolate in there.
Yeah, man. Heck
That was
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
Maserati, man, you 100 miles an hour. You guys made sound incredible.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah, yeah. Maserati, man. That was like anything that came out of that camp was like, hey, man. I don't care if even Taj or Seville. We love all of that stuff that came out of off Paisley Park. We're like, we're anything
Yeah,
that's connected to Prince. You could hear that sound, and we were like, we're with it. Let's. But that's the stuff we like covering, because everybody else covers everything else. So it's no
yeah,
point for us to do it. We'll
right.
do She's Always in My Hair or something like that, which a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, as soon as you played it, my wife's first reaction. That's one of my favorite songs.
Right.
That's how we met through Prince's music. So
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, same with me and my wife.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
See,
yeah. We used to go to Bobby's parties, and and a friend introduced us, and then 12 years
yeah,
later.
yeah. There's some really cool stories, like that, like us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Taja Seville actually, when we had the radio show in Connecticut, came to the studio and she was there 4 hours on air. She's a really nice
Oh
lady.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So she
Yeah,
used
we
to
were
live in.
all in love with her. Yeah, everybody had the
Yeah.
big crush on Tasha Seville. We're like any chick that can wear combat boots and look that fine. Like we're like, man, forget about it. Sign me up.
Yeah. She's good friends with Nile Rodgers, and he's from Connecticut too. So,
Okay, that makes sense. That
but
makes
she's
sense.
up in Detroit, I think. Still, she does like a lot of things for farming and real, helping the community.
Oh, dope, dope. She's
Yeah.
still making
So,
music, right?
yeah, still making music as well. In fact, I had a guest on the show a couple weeks ago, and he did a remix for one of her tracks, but it was in the past. But she's definitely still making music.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
yeah. So let's get back to the metal roots and guitar and everything. How'd you get into metal music?
My cousins, were introduced me to Kiss when I was 10 or 11 years old, and
Mhm.
once we saw that, I think it was Kiss Alive 2 or Kiss Alive 1, when we saw the back cover with Gene Simmons blowing the fire and the blood all over his face, we're like, okay, we're gonna be a band. So five of us little kids, everybody picked an instrument and started learning how to play. We didn't know what the heck we were doing, and then once Kiss came, then that's kind of like the gateway to the British heavy metal invasion. The Judas Priest and the Iron Maidens and all of that stuff, and then early, the thrash metal scene started in our backyard. So
Okay.
Metallica, Testament and bands like that, and Machine Head. All those guys are right from our area. The bass player for Metallica, lived like the next town up. The town I was born in, he lived in that town. So
Oh,
all
really?
these,
Okay.
yeah. So that whole thing, Birth and Death Angel and all those bands were right from the Bay Area. So once the thrash metal thing happened, and we were all a bunch of little skateboarders and BMXers, we all listened to punk and metal, and it was the most fun stuff to play on guitar. You
Right.
know, then we got into like the funk thing. My older sister was listening to Parliament and Rick James and all that. So it was a natural progression for us.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you heard of the band Cro-Mags?
No,
They're
no,
out
I
of New
think
York.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
no.
they're a hardcore rock band, and I had the drummer, but I met him through Bernie Worrell because he played drums with Bernie Worrell, Gary Sullivan, and he was with the Cro-Mags as well. And I did an
Okay.
interview with him. And for New Year's Eve, I had a DJ gig. So, but I was also, it was a night I was on radio. I just stuck our interview to be played while I was doing the DJ party. And
Dig
for
it.
some reason, other songs were supposed to come in like a regular loop, but my interview was on for like 10 hours until the next DJ came in, and it was just
Dang.
all heavy metal. And somebody thought, what happened? This is not his regular show. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was intense. It's like an old school hardcore metal band.
We're all 80s. Me and my drummer Tony used to be in a band called Pain, and we toured all over, and we have a song on when that movie the Saw 2 came out, so we had a song on the Saw 2 soundtrack. That was kind of like our thing that kind of put us out there in the public eye, and so we've always been metal guys. I play in a hard rock metal band to this day called the Court of Blood Technique. So
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
right. I was checking that out. Yeah.
Yeah. My hard rock and metal roots, Bay Area. If you grew up in the Bay Area, at a certain point in time, you was going to get sprinkled with that music. You were going to hear it all the time.
So as a guitar player, putting the emotion into the different feels to funk and metal, is it different? Yeah.
I mean, because we play more of, our metal is more of a fast, more of a, aggressive metal, not as much space in between, in between notes. And, with the funk thing, you can kind of lay back more, be more bluesy with it, and express yourself a little bit, more, and lay back in the groove with it more than you can in metal. Metal's like go. Our style of metal is like go, 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 go. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like hit you. But yeah, I would say that would be the biggest difference.
Is it a more exhausting show? I'm sure.
Yeah, when we're playing metal, man, we were going crazy. Yeah,
yeah, you lose about 5 pounds during the night, right?
Yeah. Water weight, you at least 10 pounds a show, man.
Right. Yeah. How about funk R&B guitarists? Who are some of your top ones that you were inspired by?
Man, Eddie Hazel, the Kid Funky Dog, Jesse, what I mean? There's but I'd have to, my favorite guitar player, my biggest is Hendrix, man. You can't really put him in too big of a box, but he's anything that kind of is blues based, I'm going to be attracted to that,
Okay.
because because of the phrasing and the scaling that Hendrix did. But I don't think I've ever, and Prince, of course, but Prince and Hendrix are very similar in their style of the way they express themselves on the instrument, So I was always attracted to guys like that.
We were a little too young to see Hendrix in his era.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That would have been amazing, man. I worked at a music store, and this soul hippie guy used to come in all the time, and he was like, "Oh, what's your favorite guitar player?" I told him, and he's like, "Man, I got something for you." So the next time he came in, he brought me a print of Hendrix in Berkeley, and he took taken all these pictures back then in the '60s and the early '70s of Hendrix and Janis Joplin. So he gave me actually, hold on a second, 35 minutes away, 40 minutes away from Berkeley.
Okay.
It's right next to Oakland. So
yeah. Hey, we got to give props to a mutual friend, Paul Altamirano of Funk Clone Radio. Yeah, he's been supporting you, support our show, and introduce us. And talk about Paul and his support for your music.
Yeah, Paul reached out to me on Facebook. Probably when did the Funk Shui come out? Man, it's been like 5 years ago. Right. And he was like, "Hey man, would you mind me featuring some of your music on the station?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Anything you need from me, man, drops or whatever." So that's kind of like how we started, connecting. And then I do a project also called Shawnee Be Fresh. Is like a throwback hip hop project, because I used to be a b-boy and a popper and a breaker, which was big out here in the Bay Area too. Right. So he's a fan of that as well. So ever since then we've been like buds. We chop it up on the phone. But what a great guy, man. He just he's really a lover of the music. We can sit there. We're like me and you. It's like we can sit there and talk about music all day with that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the cool thing, I'm sure people you hear saying, "Oh, there's no good music out there." No, it's shows like Funk Clone and your own music, people who are in their prime making music, and he's showcasing them. So
Yeah, you just gotta dig for it a little bit more, man. It's like
yeah,
anything. If you're looking in corporate spaces for funky stuff, man, it ain't gonna happen.
I know. So is there a difference? Do you get down to LA to see some of the funk, or you stay up
No,
in?
I haven't been down south in probably about 5 years, 6 years. I need to get back down there, and we need to play. We need to get out and hit the road with the Blackstone, and
Mhm.
even with the Quarter Blood Technique, we need to get out and start moving around a little bit. We gotta wait for things to settle down south, man. 1 minute it's on fire, the next minute you got riots. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta, I got trapped in L.A. back in 91 or 2 during the Rodney King riots. So
Oh,
I
okay.
I learned my lesson about going to that town, during upheaval. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but
Yeah,
my prayers,
my other
to LA.
brother in LA. Yeah, my other brother lives in that area in LA, and his wife is gonna have their first kid like maybe tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Whew.
So,
Man, prayers up for the Southland, man, because it's just crazy. We live in a crazy time right now.
yeah, insane. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we'll live long enough to see some improvement.
God willing, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I,
God
I
willing.
really want to get back down there and play the Viper Room again, and play the whiskey again. I haven't been in those places in a long time, so I want to get back out there.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the East Coast, like the bitter end. And I didn't go to CBGB's, but I heard a lot about, legendary clubs like that. But
Right.
inside, you mentioned, the Viper Room and Whiskey Go Go. What's the vibe in there? Is it still like kind of like ripped up, kind of dirty inside?
Yeah. That
Okay, yeah,
that's the appeal. That's the appeal. You walk on the floor and your feet are like sticking. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's like,
right,
yeah, it's disgusting. But
yeah,
if it's I don't if it's not a little bit disgusting in the club, then it's not a good club as far as I'm concerned. It's not a good music venue, at least. It
yeah,
might be a good dance club. You know what I mean? If you want to listen to dance music, then so be it. But if you want to hear good music, it's got to be a little bit beat up. It's got to be lived in.
yeah. Nobody's passing you the towel or giving you the mint in the bathroom at those clubs.
Absolutely not.
No.
You got to step over people, that are passed out on the floor.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, but they everybody wants to go visit and play at those places at least once. Yeah.
Yeah. We played it. We also played I'm trying to think of the name of the club. It's right across the street from the Viper Room. It's the same club that Cheech and Chong, when they did the rock fight. I'm trying to think. I always forget the name of it.
Uh-huh.
But we played there when I played with the band called Pain, and I remember us pulling up in our cars with all our gear, and I'm like, we're going to a rock fight, because it's the same club where Cheech and
Yeah.
Chong performed. I was like, I've made it now, man.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those records growing up hearing them, they were definitely fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So were you a big collector of vinyl? Still are?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
still am. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we're always Shawnee Be Fresh is always releasing vinyl and stuff like that. But I come from the old school hip hop DJ
Yeah.
era. So I was a DJ in high school, and I was DJing all the high school dances and stuff like that. It's called me Dr. Scratch. So I
Right.
was
Oh,
I
wow.
was always was into all that vinyl, and I still it's a warmth of the analog, that you really can't get in any other medium. So I still listen to records all the time.
Yeah, I did mobile DJing too, the parties like that. And it's the worst part is like lugging the equipment.
Yeah, those big
It
old
was
1200s, man, are heavy. You
yeah,
got that
yeah,
big coffin, freaking with your 1200s in it.
right. Yeah, it's like when you were DJing back then, was it people bugging you the requests and the drunk customers?
This
That
is why
happen
I
often?
stopped.
Yeah.
This is
Oh,
why I
okay.
stopped.
Right.
I would I would DJ at high school, and every little girl would come up and they want, play Madonna. I want to hear Like a Virgin. I'm like, sorry, we don't do that. We're playing. You want to hear some Planet Rock? We got you.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I got the vinyl of that somewhere in the closet over there still. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
I catered strictly to the b-boys. I didn't care about pop music, and I would play some Prince and stuff like that, but I didn't care about nothing else. But like if kids weren't spinning on their heads while I was in the mix, it was a failure.
Wow. Were you a big fan of Soul Train watching?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was a fan of Soul Train, but even before that, when I remember being a little kid, I used to catch that Don Kirshner's rock concert.
Oh yeah.
And
Right.
the midnight special. I think that's where I first saw Prince. Was like on one of those late, 1:30 in the morning or something after Benny Hill. You
Yeah.
you stay up late and you watch like Don Kirshner's, or reruns of it.
Right. Yeah, great memory. A lot of people don't. I mean, today the young kids, they don't seem to be talking about stuff like that.
Nah, they got everything at their fingertips on their phone. Too much
Right.
information.
That's right. We got too many files. At least I do in my brain. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So how were you on the dance floor, b-boy yourself?
I was pretty proficient as a popper and a breaker. Usually, where I grew up, you either pick a side. You're going to be a boogaloo, strutter, popper, or you're going to be a guy that get down. But I was with both of them. I love both of it. When I moved out from Oakland, I moved out to a town in the Central Valley, Tracy, California, and started hanging out on the South Side over there. And all my friends over there we saw Beat Street. That's right when Beat Street came out, and that was it. We had to learn every single move from that battle. And we did. We used to go to, rest in peace to my buddy Ray McDaniels, who used to drive us kids all in a big van and take us to battles. And we'd battle other crews. And, and just like in New York, it squashed a lot of violence, because at that time, there was a lot of gangbanging and stuff going on in the Central Valley. So, but, the breaking and the popping, squashed a lot of that.
Yeah, it was just great time. And, there's still some pretty strong interest in those times, or it comes back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that kind of like maybe I want to say 2012. I just popped in to go see Egyptian Lover. I heard he was playing, so I just popped in to go see Egyptian Lover, and I was like, damn, everybody in here is strutting and popping, and I was like, oh. That inspired me to get back into my electro funk and get back into my whole group, because I was like, it hasn't went anywhere. It's just gone underground a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, like you mentioned before, you just gotta do the work and dig harder to find all this good stuff. Yeah. Oh, I'd be remiss. I gotta say that we were talking about Paul Altamirano and Funk Clone Radio. He and Soul do it. It's on Mixcloud. So
yeah.
I know Funk Clone, every Friday they usually publish a new show.
Yeah. Great music. They did a killer mix Blackstone Funk Revival, and he went back. He was pulling tracks off that first album, and I was like, damn, I forgot about that song. I listened to the whole show. I was in my kitchen, just grooving. I was like, damn, I forgot. Maybe we need to perform that song live, man. That's kind of funky right there. Yeah. So he digs it. He digs. He's not gonna just play your most popular stuff from an artist. He's gonna get down in the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah, definitely. So, hey, let's talk about your current band. Maybe go give a little background to some of the players in your band.
Sure. So we got Derek on guitar. We got my doppelganger Shaun on keys, Christian on keys, Kenny on bass, and Tony on drums. And me and Tony been making music together. Probably I'm going pushing 25 years now. From the metal days. So I go back to him, and then I was working at a music store in San Mateo, California, and I met Shaun, the keyboard player. And man, he's like the rest of us. He plays a bunch of different instruments, and he's a math professor. So he's a smart dude, but he just has, and he has a lot of the classic gear. Same with Christian. We use old Roland synths, analog synths live. So we can get that sound, and like you were talking about Derek, just another good brother, man of God, just a solid keyboard player. Like me, I don't read music. I don't know anything about music. Like technically, I couldn't tell you what key any of the stuff I write is in. But these guys will communicate with each other and tell each other, okay, this is an E flat, blah blah blah, and I'm like, I wrote the song, I don't even know what the hell they're talking about. So it's good to have people in your band that are smarter than you, you know.
Right.
And I got some really solid players. These dudes are super better on their instrument than I am. You know what I mean? So they're just really, really solid. I think where I shine is writing and producing. I've been producing records since I was a kid. I've been in, you know, studios and getting record deals ever since I was, you know, 18. You know, so, you know, 40 years of being a studio rat and into gear and stuff like that. But the band, those dudes are gods, and those dudes are all amazing players and, you know, and writers in their own right, you know.
Of the studios you've been to throughout your whole time, do you have a favorite?
I would say my favorite, where my memories is Fantasy Studios. They're no longer there. They're in Berkeley. You know, I was a kid and I was in a group called the Wild Boys, and we got signed to Fantasy Records. Okay. And same label as Creedence Clearwater Revival, and, you know, and the Cybertron. They did Clear. You know, so there was a lot of history there, and they did a lot of film work and stuff like that. So, you know, they would do a lot of movie soundtracks, but they signed us to. They had acquired the Volt label, and Volt and Stax actually. So as a hip hop group going in there, we were able to sample anything from Isaac Hayes to any of the old Volt Stax stuff. So, but being in those studios as a, you know, 18-year-old kid, 19, all those engineers were the nicest to me, because I asked them a billion questions about how things worked, and they not once did I ever get, you know, hey, get out of the way, kid, you're bugging me. Never. This is a LA2A compressor, you know, this is this kind of compressor, this is, you know, this is how this works, this everything. So I was able to soak up a lot of knowledge, you know, being in Fantasy Studios. Probably my favorite.
That was in Berkeley, you said?
Yeah, in Berkeley, yeah.
Right. For our viewers and listeners, what are the best spots people can get in contact with you and the band?
With the Blackstone Funk Revival, you can get on our Facebook, you know, or you can just go to my I'm really active on my Shaun Bivens Facebook, ShaunBivens. You can reach us on there, and I'm always posting stuff about shows and stuff like that on there.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more added with the new record out, and people are digging. I've been reading the comments, and, you know, somebody, I don't know if you saw the comment, somebody said this is the best ballad since Purple Rain.
Woo!
You could read that one.
That's crazy.
Say, but you got a super fan out there. It's a really nice song, you guys, man.
Thank you.
I wouldn't just say it's like a Prince. You got falsetto, but you got your own version of it. But the music is just like an R&B funk feel, and real nice.
Yeah, somebody left me a really good comment on there, and they said, you know, the vocal kind of reminds them of Blue Magic, and I was like, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, but I really did grow up on, you know, on the Stylistics, the Shy Lights, and Blue Magic, because my sister, so, and Prince. So though when I do the falsetto thing, which I'm really not that good at, you know, but when I do it, I kind of try to mimic those Eddie Kendricks, you know, those type of people that had those nice falsettos, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the ones to emulate a little bit.
Yeah, you got to steal from the best, you know. If you're gonna steal from the best.
You don't try rapping in falsetto, right?
No, not yet. But, you know,
it could be done, I guess.
Anything's possible, right?
Yeah. So everybody, you got to pick up Blue Tears, the EP, Blackstone Funk Revival Band, Shaun Bivens. We're going to have all the links in the description, whether on the audio on Spotify and Apple. And also we'll have it, of course, on YouTube. People can go right to where you can hear and buy the new music. Yeah. So
the Shaun Bivens YouTube page, you know, it's got all the music on there.
That's right. Some great video. Oh, last question. Where did you record the single for Maybe I'll Forget You? They had the video.
The video, we did it at my buddy Rick Hayes' club. It's not, the club's closed now, but he had a club in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And
okay.
You know, he's a guy, he has a club for like a year or two, then he moves another spot and has it for a year or two, moves another spot, you know. So he was like, "Hey, you know, come in. You guys want to use it? Come in and shoot." So we shot it. Yeah, right in the thick of I think Eddy Street in San Francisco. It's wild down there. You know, it's crazy down there. But you know,
I
we
don't.
got,
Yeah,
we got it done. Yeah.
yeah. I only went to the nightclubs. I don't know how people do. Managing and licensing and craziness. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You got to have friends. You got to be friends with everybody. You know, in order to survive in that industry. You know.
Right. So thanks, brother, man. It's been great to have you on, and the first of hopefully many times. Hopefully we still all got a
God,
lot of years to talk about music.
yeah, God willing, and God bless you, bro. I really appreciate your time and the platform, and thank you so much for having me, man. And I just I hope we get to do it again sometime soon, man.
Yeah, we definitely will. So Shaun Bivens, Blackstone Funk Revival. Thanks, brother.
All right, peace. God bless.